Hey guys, this is Brian Carter, and I just wanted to bang out a quick video after I got the kids to school this morning, based off some questions that I've received from people both on our local TGP team and even from outside our team about the Costco program recently, and specifically about some of the exclusive new Costco knives, new product offerings, which of course I'm a giant Cutco guy, so I have to have them all, and I certainly do. So I want to talk a little bit today here about the Costco program in general, really quick, some of the concerns or objections that a lot of people have, and then specifically about the knives, kind of how we are explaining them in TGP, how I am encouraging people to sort of talk about them in the rare cases they do come up. What do you say about the Gourmet table knife to try and keep people focused on product offerings that you can actually sell to them? Okay, so that's kind of what we want to spend a few minutes on here today. Now, I have to offer this disclaimer. First off, important number one, I am only speaking for myself, okay? I am making this based off, like I said, questions I have received. I am not speaking from a national perspective. I have no special knowledge or insight other than my own experiences, just interacting with the program and knowing people that work with a lot of other companies in the Costco Roadshow program, like Vitamix and some other groups like that. The other disclaimer is that I definitely understand why the exclusive knives, the schedule of events, or just the Costco program in general can be frustrating for a lot of CSPs. I totally hear you. I totally understand. The concerns you have are valid, but at the same time, we still have to operate within kind of the way things are currently stacked up and learn how to do it in a really productive way. So that being said, how do I personally feel about the Costco program? Okay. I'll say, while maybe it's at times complicated, I do think it is ultimately complementary to my business. I think if you learn how to leverage it correctly, it has overall been a net gain for me personally, and I think for the TGP team. Now, do I lose some sales? Yes. Yeah, for sure. I have customers that will go to Costco and buy a couple random knives. I'm sure I've had customers buy a set over the years, but yeah, I do occasionally lose sales. And am I frustrated by that? Well, of course I am. I'm allowed to have a human moment, and I work hard for my customers. So yeah, I for sure get frustrated by that. But at the same time, do I also gain sales? And the answer is yes. I do gain sales at a pretty significant level, just based off people's exposure to us in their local Costcos. Guys, being in Costco means that our program is exposed to 32 million members in the United States. And these are on average just, above average income earners. There's just an implied credibility for many of those people that maybe wouldn't otherwise encounter Cutco. They see Cutco at their Costco. Maybe they even buy some, and a lot of times that kind of gets them hooked. But a lot of times they see Cutco there and they're kind of intrigued, but they don't buy because, they're kind of there to do their grocery shopping. Like, that's how my wife and I are. I'll rubberneck a lot of stuff, but we're there to get our steaks and some big snacks and large quantities for the kids and a few bottles of wine and things like that. And so what happens though is when they see us at a fair, when they see us at a home show, at a marketplace event or other venue, when they're not literally grocery shopping, sometimes that Costco exposure makes them curious enough to stop by the booth. I think everyone that consistently works shows has plenty of stories where we upgrade a Costco owner, or we sell them a set after they maybe picked up like a cheese knife there. And so as long as you don't make it weird, you don't get defensive about it, you're just positive about the fact they've encountered Cutco, and you kind of parlay that enthusiasm and confidence, it can really open the doors for some very productive interactions. And I've adopted so many customers because I can offer service, I can offer more products, I can offer different colors, I can offer other packages and programs, I can offer engraving, I can offer, there's just a lot you can offer if you're on your game. You can even turn this into like a positive point of connection when someone mentions that they saw us at Costco. Curtis JQ is just great with that. Like it's just right on the tip of his tongue. He'll just say, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you mentioned that you're a Costco member. I actually offer exclusive discounts to Costco members. Hey, let me show you what that might look like for you." And it just immediately turns it into this sort of positive thing. And he's building that loyalty and with his customers and just being more memorable than he otherwise could have been. Now, I will also say, just for what it's worth, and again, I'm not towing the line here, but I'm guessing there are likely some points of frustration that a lot of the field has regarding Costco that are just simply out of the company's control. Costco is just a giant fish in the retail world. They set requirements for prices, for communication, for exclusive, items or packages, for the timing of events, and just a lot of other areas. And like I said, I want to be really clear. I am not speaking in any way about Cutco's contracts with Costco. I truthfully have zero knowledge of our agreements about it. But I do know people on Vitamix. I do know people that work with other companies that are heavily involved in the Roadshow program. program. And I've just consistently heard those kind of bullet points enough times from these other companies that I suspect Cutco also has to wade through those waters. Like I'm guessing that we're, not immune from the same things that are required of other companies that are going to partner with Costco. And so knowing that, I'm sure there's things we all want, like just give us an updated regular price list or things like that, that they are not allowed to do based on those agreements, which is why if you're just nice and cool, when you see Cutco at a local Costco, you can just go get that information yourself. Okay. But again, guys, be nice and cool. Don't make anyone's job hard. So big picture though, here's my philosophy on this, and then we'll get into the individual pieces and kind of concerns that some people have. I think the weight of these programs all support each other. You think about it like an arch, and literally you have that keystone at the top. The CSPs these days, you're probably the keystone, but it's the weight of this arch, all these big collective stones that support it and keep it in the great shape that it's in. And so the way I kind of look at it, CSPs, the reality is you guys keep the machines moving, okay? And like CSPs are what allow us to manufacture Cutco at scale. Like you guys do so much heavy lifting, which is why I'm proud to be part of your community. I'm proud to be part of the community. And so I think the CSPs really kind of keep things moving at scale. Managers develop new reps and ultimately new CSPs through that, but they also acquire a ton of new customers, and they're also a lot more profitable than CSPs. And so again, you need the scale that can only be provided by the professional sales force, but you also need the influx of customers, of sales professionals that ultimately will come from the management side. And then I look at other channels like Costco, the website, and just supplemental sales. These are things that are supplementing what we're all doing, but they're doing it with honestly higher margins because they're not having as big a payout to CSPs or managers. And the reality is that funding, that liquidity helps support all the other channels. And so, to me, you just have to accept the weight of all these programs are supporting each other. And if you try to just pull one out in modern Cutco and Vector, it's probably not going to look good for all of us. Like I'm sure there's a universe where we don't have Costco, we don't have the website, or we don't have, a lot of other channels, but I promise you it would look different for every other one. Like you couldn't take that out without drastically impacting the management side or drastically impacting the CSP side. Like at the end of the day, the numbers have to make sense. And so I think I'm largely just at peace that I want us to have a healthy company, and I do not require that every single thing that exists within that company does not always have to be to my personal benefit. There's a larger benefit to me being a part of a healthy company that I can build a life and a business in, and my kids can be a part of one day, and it allows me to support myself at a really high level. And that doesn't mean I don't have legitimate concerns or complaints. I do at times. I have many, as people who work with me know. But I've largely accepted that like all these things are going to support each other, and that's when it's going to make us a healthy company. And it is okay if some things exist not for my own personal benefit, as long as I can see the big picture of how like their existence allows what I do to be possible. So that's my own philosophy. It doesn't have to be yours. Now, as far as just kind of the most common objections that I sort of hear from time to time about the Costco program, and then we'll go into the pieces because the pieces are probably the biggest objection these days. First off, it's just that I lose sales. Some people have that frustration point, and the reality is that is inevitable. Like for sure that is going to happen. I think the majority of that times that's happening though is people just buying a piece or two because it's cheap, or they just needed an extra cheese knife, or they're going to a wedding next week or things like that. But the reality is, guys, you're also going to lose sales to other CSPs. You're going to lose sales to other shows. You're going to lose sales to Cutco stores. You're going to lose sales to the websites. You're going to lose sales to new reps. You're going to lose sales to garage sales. Like there's just a lot of other avenues that can take that away. And so I try not to get too neurotic about that. Like I hope I build good loyalty with my customers, but the reality is they don't owe me anything and I don't own them. And so I think if I can keep the majority of my customers shopping with me instead of other avenues, I'm probably doing a good job. And I just accept like I am going to lose some sales here and there. But I also know for the most part, guys, people aren't impulse buying sets at Costco. Like, yes, they're selling them, but the majority of the orders have to be pieces, just from being around the Costco booths often enough. Second frustration point is that they charge less. Okay. And for sure, that is absolutely true. If someone wants an individual santoku trimmer, then yeah, customers should probably just buy it at Costco. That's really hard price for me to meet. Okay. It just is what it is. But I'm also really not that worried about one knife. And I would say that neither should you. Okay. But guys, who's really going to charge less? Their nephew that just went through training. Okay. Like sometimes we get worried about like a $1,400 homemaker when they are fired up to sell your customer a homemaker on the trade-in special for like $1,260. So there's always going to be someone that will kind of undercut if possible. But the reality is if they're looking for a couple things or a set, we can meet or beat it if we choose to, or we can try to add so much value that it's just worth it to them to pay a couple extra bucks to have more options, to have access to us as service reps, or just because, darn it, you're really good at what you do. So again, I'm not diminishing it, but I would just say that the most price sensitive buyers that it's hard for us to impact, they're just buying a knife or two, because if they were buying multiple things, we can beat those prices, okay, through just packages and bonusing things. Other concerns that just these last two or three, that they're here too often. And for sure, that can be frustrating. I guess I'm a little more immune to that because we've had Cutco stores in our area for more than a decade. Truthfully, I don't love them. Honestly, Costco I'm largely fine with. The Cutco stores I personally don't really love, but it's more because I see the value that comes from Costco. I don't really see as much from the stores. And I just don't think a lot of them are that great at selling Cutco. So I don't really lose a lot of sleep over it, but I've just sort of accepted that as a part of my business. And so maybe I just have a little higher tolerance because I know that those opportunities are always there. But I'll tell you guys, if someone's looking for it, the opportunities have always been there. They didn't need a Cutco store, nor do they need to be at Costco. If they want to shop and they don't want to do it with you, they're going to find a way to do it. The last ones I'll say is this: they said or did something I didn't like a demonstrator said something to one of my customers. Maybe they straight up said it. Maybe the customer misunderstood it. Maybe it just got really loud in a Costco. You ever been to Costco on a Saturday? Don't go to Costco on the weekends. The reality is, guys, sometimes that can happen. And I just want to say this could be entirely valid. All right. Like I don't want y'all to seem like I'm diminishing these concerns or acting like I never feel them. I certainly do from time to time. Unfortunately, there are some crummy Costco demonstrators. And unfortunately, there's also some crummy CSPs or some crummy managers. And here's the thing I do genuinely believe. I promise that is no one's goal. Okay. Like no one has a desire for there to be any channels in our company that just have bad actors in them. And so what I will say is if you have a legitimate issue, just guys, for God's sake, take it through the proper channels. Like if you're actually serious about solving problems versus just being mad, and it's okay to be mad, but ultimately being mad doesn't really make anything better. Like your indignation might be well-founded and rightly deserved, but it doesn't actually solve any problems. So if you're actually concerned about solving problems, guys, take it up to your DVM, take it to your RM. They tend to have the ears of people who might be more helpful or might know better how to send it up the channel. Be professional, be solution oriented. Don't be accusatory or just trying to defend your position, because again, you're just in your feelings. Because the reality is every channel has issues to deal with. I will just say this: if you're never willing to give people the benefit of the doubt, maybe a customer did misunderstand, or maybe they are taking it seriously, the resolution just didn't look like the way you wanted it. But guys, if we are never willing to give the benefit of the doubt to anyone else, you may not deserve it in the future, and I may not too. So sometimes you have to just trust a little bit of the process. Maybe the machines don't move as quick as you want it to, but be professional, be persistent, but just do your best to do things the right way. Okay, but the last thing, the crux of this video is the exclusive items, and that's really what we want to touch on here today. I just couldn't help but share some of those thoughts at the top. So like I said, when it comes to all the different concerns or objections, I'm just going to repeat for the 10th time. I'm not saying that you should not feel frustrated about those individual situations or the program or whatever you want. Feel what you feel. It is not my job to change your mind or even challenge your perspective. I'm simply sharing mine because, hey, it's my video and I get to do that. But I will just say this. I honestly believe when it comes to the new knives, like the exclusive items, I think innovation in one channel benefits all channels. And personally, I want to be a part of a company that's experimenting with new products and that's just never being complacent. Like I think that is a net benefit as a part of our company culture that we are still innovating. I mean, if you would have asked me, there's only so many knives that any one company can realistically make customers will buy, and the company keeps finding more. And I think we have ideas even more in the future, which I think is great. So let's talk about the exclusive items. Costco currently has 4 knives that Vector cannot sell. They also have the block with the insert. And don't get me wrong, that is dope. I wish we could sell the block, but look, we've been selling customized homemakers for 15 years with the shears go in the slot. Let's not really act like that's holding us back in any meaningful way. Now, I'm not being flippant, but I think we also have to be just honest and acknowledge that the Vector side has currently almost 200 items. Okay, it's like 190 something items that Costco cannot sell. Okay, we also have more options on colors, again, engraving and things like that. So I would start by first off, just anytime, especially newer people on my team bring some of those concerns to me, my challenge or my encouragement to them is to focus on improving their pitch on those 190 items we can sell versus stressing a lot about the 4 that we can't. But that being said, we do still need answers for when those come up. And so here's what I will tell you though. One of the things that gives me a lot of confidence is this. If something becomes just insanely popular, if the cheese knife comes out and it's just insanely popular, guys, I am confident the company will want to offer some version of that in all sales channels eventually. I'm sure it won't be exactly this. Maybe there'll be a santoku, larger santoku cheese knife in the future. I don't know. That's not based off anything than just me guessing. But this is a santoku vegetable knife. Is it weird we could have a larger santoku cheese knife? Not really. I'm sorry, it's a vegetable knife cheese knife is what I meant to say. So I'm pretty confident that if there's just a giant opportunity to sell a ton of these to all our other customers, there's probably going to be a version of that eventually. So like that's one thing I will just encourage y'all, like, be patient, like in the meantime. So let's go through the different knives though. Okay, first off, the nigiri. Now the nigiri was my most wanted knife from Costco. And so I was very excited when it was rolled out, and I was extremely frustrated because that is the one that I have been wanting for the longest time. And so I went and bought one myself, and you can see here the picture where we've got just the breakdown of all these big, beautiful vegetable knives that we have. The original vegetable knife, it is my favorite chopping knife. And so for me, the more the merrier. Honestly, once I got it though, and again, I'm not trying to like just, make myself feel good. I was honestly disappointed in it. And it's not the knife's fault. The knife is great. It's a me thing. But for a chopping knife like that, the length of the blade combined with that small handle, it just didn't work for me. And so I was kind of disappointed. Like, I have it in my block and I hardly ever use it. Customers seem to like it, but it just wasn't my knife. But kind of like my first point, where if something is super popular, I'm pretty confident we're all going to end up with something similar to it eventually. And so, soon after that though, the company gave us the 6-inch, and the 6-inch I love, because again, I love the vegetable knife, and due to the length of that blade, when it's 5 or 6 inches long, I just need a little bit of a slightly bigger handle for me to really use it comfortably for the kinds of things that I'm cutting through. So love it. Chef's kiss. I think the 6-inch is one of the best things that we make. And then, this year coming out with a 4-inch. Now we got that little baby one, and the smaller handle doesn't bug me as much on the 4-inch. It's still not my go-to, but the nigiri, even though I love the idea of it and I'm glad it exists, it's not really getting a lot of rotation in the Carter household. Truthfully though, when you see the spread there, if you do not know how to navigate the nigiri, you have bigger problems than Costco at this point, because we have so many different options. In fact, Grace Cook, my very good friend, she got her 4-inch and she had it engraved. I'll try to put the picture here, and it's like, oh, the 7.5, 6-inch, and 5-inch weren't enough, which I think is hilarious, and it's one of my favorite engravings ever. So next up, guys, let's talk about the Gourmet table knives. And these are pretty badass, I'm not gonna lie. Like, for sure, we would sell the hell out of these. I have no doubt about it. These are great because obviously they fit in all the blocks. But I'm not trying to reach here, guys. I'm just trying to tell you how I have had conversations with a couple customers that have recently seen these. The fact that these do fit in all the blocks means that I think a lot of customers will actually limit themselves now to a homemaker block. And, very few customers are actually like actively seeking out to have a block the size of the Signature and Ultimate set. I mean, sure, they're willing to, okay, because we give them a good enough reason to through, all the extra pieces and the value they'll get from upgrading. But the fact that the bigger blocks will hold the larger steak knives, that is a big factor, in my opinion. A lot of people opening up to the idea of a new block, and therefore opening up to the idea of upgrades. Now, maybe your experience is different, but guys, I know in the event space, guys, we have sold like $1.5 million in just steak knives just in the booth this year. Like, steak knives are an insanely massive seller. It's like 5% of our booth sales this year, give or take, are steak knives. Like, we sell roughly as much CPO in steak knives as we do flatware in the booth. So like, the steak knives are a huge needle mover. I think that even though I would like to have these, I genuinely would like to sell those options, because I know for some customers it's a really good fit. I'm not entirely sure it's worth what I would lose in steak knives, and I could be wrong, but that's my honest opinion on there. So here's how I explain it. I had a customer mention them to me, that they had seen those. And what I told them was that they're a really good knife. And if that's what they decided to go with, I'm sure they'll be quite happy with it, because I believe that it's a genuinely good knife. If that's what you decide to go with, I'm sure you'll be quite happy with it. Okay. But here's what I told them. Mrs. Jones, honestly, the downer with those, and I have several, I bought a couple sets of those, Mrs. Jones, but the challenge for me is that I am losing the versatility of the table knife to get a steak knife where I think the handle's too small. I'm losing the versatility of a table knife to get a steak knife where I think the handle is too small. Because guys, if you're not great at selling table knives, get right with it. Because even if all your sets have steak knives, you need to sell them flatware chests that have the stainless table knives. And I think people need the table knives. You don't always have a steak. And especially the fact that the steak knives are pointed. I've gotten so good at explaining the value of having a rounded tip. It's not cutting up your plates. It's not dulling as quickly. It's not as fragile. Like, pointy edge steak knives are a little bit of a head fake for me, even though that might be what some customers are used to. Maybe it's what they want. That's fine. I can't stop them from buying it. But when I mentioned that to them, I said, look, the reality is you're losing the versatility of the table knife to get a steak knife where the handle is just too small. And we even going a little bit further, I was like, look, and if you're having a big intense steak, you know, it's a great knife. It's well constructed. Like it's going to serve you well and it's guaranteed forever, the Gourmet table knife, but it's just not the same feel. It's not as sturdy. It's not full tang. And again, you got to be a little careful because neither is the table knife. But when I'm talking about steak knives and the types of people that are largely going for this, they're because they want something a little more intense than a table knife. For me, it was as simple as that. And I was able to redirect them back to the steak knives, keep them on my side of the fence, and that's great. Now, for some people, are they going to buy the Gourmet table knives and love them? Absolutely. Godspeed and God bless you. Those are people I probably was never going to sell steak knives to either, but I found that line to be very effective when it has come up. So try that out, see the response you get, because so far it's been pretty effective to me. So like I said, guys, I am a fan of them. We would sell a lot of them, but I honestly, I don't know that it's worth what it would take away big picture from the steak knives that have a higher CPO. In fact, I go the other way. I want us to have a steak knife that's like $140, like some kind of deluxe steak knife. I wonder what that could look like. But I wish we had even a nicer, fancier, more expensive product offering on steak knives, less one in between. I think I thought I wanted it, but now that I actually had mine for a while, they're cool. I do like them, but like I'm not using them as much as either the steak knives or the table knives. Again, that's me. Yours might be different. All right, let's talk about the Gourmet filet knife. Now, this one actually hurts. Okay, this one hurts. I did not know I needed this knife. The boning knife is one of the most used knives in my home. We're Texas people, and again, a lot of times it's just like chicken breast or things like that, but I use the hell out of that boning knife, and this complements it so nicely. This one is just tough. This one hurts my heart just a bit. So here's the thing though, you know, when it comes down to it, it's a little longer than the boning knife, but not by much. And it is a good bit more flexible. So you can see the length here. You know, what this is occupying is a neat little space between the boning knife and the salmon knife. The boning knife still has good flexibility. That should be a selling point for it. The salmon knife has a lot more flexibility, and this is basically a boning knife made like a salmon knife. So when it comes down to it, I don't really have a whole lot to say about this one other than sell them the Cutco boning knife. You know, they don't really know what they're missing unless you're actually comparing the two and seeing the flex right there. I don't even know that the flex is actually that much better for all jobs. I think for some jobs it is. I think for some, I would prefer to have the more rigid boning knife. But here's what I will tell you. The types of customers that are going to appreciate the difference between the boning knife and the Gourmet filet knife, like the types of customers that appreciate that are probably the types of customers that would be happy to have both. So I don't think there's anything we can say that, like, if someone really wants that, hey, I want a salmon knife, but I want it shorter. Okay. But how often does that honestly come up where someone goes, hey, I want a salmon knife, but I want it shorter? Not very often. And the boning knife, unless they're literally both right there in front of them, most customers aren't going to super know the difference. And so what I will tell you is this: I know for a fact all my big barbecue customers or people who just do a ton of fish, when they see that knife at Costco, they're probably going to buy it. And it'd be cool if one day I could sell it to them. But I can sell them all the other barbecue knives, big protein knives that they can use to break them down. And, you know, I think it's there. So I have nothing to sort of like sell them off of the Gourmet filet knife. It's a great knife. If you want it, you should go buy it. Maybe one day I can sell you a version of it. But the reality is, I don't think it's going to come up that often because customers either aren't sophisticated enough to know the difference between the boning knife and the Gourmet filet, or they're so into it that they're going to buy it anyway, but they're also the type of customers who are going to want the other barbecue and protein knives. And the reality is I'm the guy who's going to sell that to them. So that one kind of is what it is. Now, when it comes to the Gourmet cheese knife, or I'm sorry, the Gourmet utility knife, this one is interesting. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure this is a bestseller at Costco. Like I'm just basing that off my own guessing. I think the Gourmet filet knife is an interesting knife. I think this is probably a popular knife. I'm sure we're selling a ton of these, and I am sure that Vector, we would sell a ton of these too, because people just love buying this style of blade. Since I've had it, I do like it. There's nothing wrong with the knife, to be clear. But, you know, I don't really know what its purpose is, particularly like outside of what I'm using the traditional cheese knife for. There are times where the rounded bit on the traditional cheese knife does get a little bit in the way, like the thing that's made where you can spread and you can sort of slide it on the board. There's times where it gets in the way, and that's where I promote the santoku style cheese knife. So I've only talked to 2 customers about this knife at this point, the Gourmet utility knife. And they were like, oh, that one seems really great. And when I asked them about it, I said, oh yeah, all those style cheese knives are really great. You know, that's one that they only sell at Costco currently. I sell every other version of it though. So, you know, obviously you can't pick that up there. But what is it that you really like about that knife? And I just asked, what is it you like about that knife? And the first one said, I think I like the length of it. And so for that, it was easy because I said, oh, actually, our traditional cheese knife is almost that exact same length. Like the Gourmet might be a little bit longer, but it's negligible. And the great thing is, though, the traditional cheese knife is thinner. So the gaps always help keep things from sticking, but because it's thinner, there's even less steel. So I find that when I'm doing potatoes and a lot of my fruits and veggies, like the traditional cheese knife actually goes through it even a little bit easier. You get less drag and resistance. In their case, they're like, oh, I guess that makes sense. And I sold them another 2 cheese knives. Now, does that mean they're not going to still go buy, the Gourmet utility knife? It wouldn't surprise me. Like if I saw it at Costco, I'd probably buy it. Hell, I did buy it. Now I waited and got it from my favorite Costco demonstrator. He knows who he is. But just the same, when I asked, I said, what is it you like about that one? The style of it. And they just mentioned the length. Guys, it is longer, but it's not much longer. It's maybe half an inch on the blade. You can see it in the picture here. Maybe I'm a little off on that, but I think it's close. But then the other customer said, oh, I like how it's thicker, like it's offset from the board. So when I'm cutting certain things, like I won't hit my knuckles on the board. And so I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's why we have the santoku cheese knife. You're gonna get that exact same effect. But if you're cutting through things a little harder, that longer blade, you're really gonna have to work it. The shorter tight blade on the santoku style cheese knife has the knuckle clearance, and you're gonna get more hand strength just being able to just work right through it instead of that longer blade where you're going to actually have to put more pressure if it's something really tough. And in this case, they were literally talking about like beets, sweet potatoes, things like that. So, that was enough that I sold them a santoku style cheese knife. Are they still going to go buy a Gourmet utility knife eventually? Probably. Okay, probably. But I think that fits under there's not a compelling reason why it needs to exist compared to some of the other knives. It's nice. People will buy it because it's nice, but I'm not as worried after having it as I was when I initially saw it. I thought like, oh my gosh, that's going to be the best thing ever. I mean, it's a good knife, guys. It's a nigiri with holes in it is what it is, which is cool. And I don't doubt people will like it, but it's just not one that's animating me as much as I thought. If you can't tell, the Gourmet fillet knife is by far my favorite of them. It's a great knife. That kind of brings it full circle. They're all great knives. Pretty much every knife Cutco makes is a great knife. I mean, I'm sure we all have 1 or 2 knives we don't like. I don't get the petite slicer. Calvin Lopez is great at selling it. God bless him. But, just the same, they're all great knives. And I think Tara Michelli, she had put up a Facebook post recently that said, yes, we know we're at Costco and there's some really nice deals there. But at the same time, there's things I can do for you that we're not able to through the Costco program. I can get you different colors. I can do custom packages. I can sell the whole product line minus, whatever. I can sell 99% of the whole product line. And, I can also service and sharpen your things down the road. So, overall, I appreciate your business. I sure appreciate your loyalty. But most of all, we're just excited for you to be part of the Cutco family wherever you get it, and let me know how I can help you. What a perfectly toned response to this. To wrap up, when it comes down to this, hopefully this has been a little bit helpful. If it makes you think a little different about some things, that's great. If not, that's fine. I don't really care. But to kind of wrap up, how often do I honestly worry about Cutco and Costco or even think about it? The true answer is basically never. Basically never. I mean, once every couple days working shows, someone will bring it up and it comes up just the same as once every couple days at a show, someone will bring up that their realtor gave them Cutco. I don't really think about Costco any more than I think about the website. I think about federal bases. I think about that nice kid in their church selling Cutco. Then I think about estate sales where people can buy a basting spoon and some old ass trimmer. I understand there's differences to the scale of Costco, that's for sure. But I don't even have enough time to maximize my sales channel that I'm actively engaged in, the channels I'm a part of. I try not to expend a ton of energy focusing on the ones that I don't. Guys, Costco is not my competition. The reality is it's just not. Like my competition is just not marketing well. My competition is not showing up to events, not offering enough service events, not having good sales promo max, doing catalog programs, not having good customer communication strategies. Like my competition is myself and other reps more than it is Costco. But at the end of the day, it's not going anywhere. And so I would just challenge or encourage us all, focus on making ourselves people that our customers want to be loyal to, be memorable, be available within reason, and be useful to people, but also accept that sometimes they just need a wedding gift that weekend, and that cheese knife is super convenient. Just like they might be traveling out of state and they see Cutco at a mall and they just need an extra Christmas gift, so they're just going to buy it from Mike Dalwood or Curtis or whatever. Let it go, guys, by and large. Water your own grass. Let's hope the company continues to thrive so all our opportunities continue to grow, because again, I want this to be a healthy company for the next 75 years. So, and kind of closing, thing. I do think these are great knives that Cutco has developed. No surprise there. But after spending the time with them, while I like them, I don't feel nearly as sort of put out by their existence. They exist for certain customers, but we have comparable versions of pretty much everything. And I think we're just going to continue to see even more. So good luck to you all. Be kind to each other. Be kind to everyone that's trying to make our company healthier and better. And let's just keep building this thing up.